Welcome back, everybody. I guess we're going to call this episode Running Out of Belts. And it is not fun. Um, I just finished running the A belt. And, I've had a few issues with orientation, trying to follow the instructions. They're not very clear. I actually went to the because I'm building this. My kit is based on the R1 instructions. Um, there's just a few things. I guess I looked at the R2 build. It's a much bigger installation manual. I think it's like over 200 pages versus R1, which is about 139. And I've had to make some adjustments along the way. And I've actually gone to the R1 because I was having some trouble with the running of the belt for the A. And yeah, so I found a few issues along the way. So I had an idler on my A. The idler gear for the stepper motor was upside down. My bad. I didn't go back to R1 instructions to look to make sure, but I should have. Make sure it's correct, but I do recall that it's so just troubleshooting on the way. So A belt is ran, and it basically follows the path of the upper pulleys. We're going to do the B belt now, and I'm going to show you a few things on the way here. So basically, what they kind of say is you should make sure your two belts are length are the same length before you start. I don't know if that's because you're assuming that you're just pulling off one big roll, but in the Formbot kit, the belts are already cut, and I decided to start from one side, run it, and I will trim the excess after. My first build, I wanted to make sure that I actually have enough. I don't want to cut it and have to buy more belts. So, I did run the top one, the A belt. I do have a little bit left over, so, I'd say probably 2 inches, maybe 3 inches of extra belt. So I'm going to trim that off. So I'm just going to follow the same type of steps I did for A, for B. And that's what I'm going to guide you through. But, it's not fun. It's a bit cumbersome. And this could be a little bit of a longer video. But, feel free to fast forward through. But hopefully I will be able to help you. You'll find some of this useful. So, I guess to get things started, I've got my B belt here. You're gonna try, when you're working with these things, to try and not kink them. What I did is I actually removed a belt clamp just to make this a little bit easier to work with. So we're going to take the belt out, and a few things we need to know here and play with and see what's tricky. So one of the things that's tricky is when you start this, you're putting your belt in to the carriage. It's not going to pop up ahead of here really easily. A little bit easier for me now because I've worked it through a bit. So you might have to work it a bit or use a pair of pliers or tweezers to pull that through. So I'm just going to pull this through a little tiny bit here on this end. And I am going to now, I'm not tensioning, I'm just putting this clamp back because I want this to hold the belt for me, so that it doesn't pop out. So let's get this lined up. Again, like you're working with belts, rubber, and it's moving around a good bit. It's a bit alive, so this is just so that I can, as I'm pulling through the belts, I'm not going to accidentally pull it out and continue on and lose my path. So I'm just going to snug this up. And I will pull these a little bit more snug after, and then I'll cut off my axis. There are tensioners elsewhere. on the front. So I'm just going to tighten this up. I wish I had a little bit better of a Allen key for set for this, but that's what I'm going to use here. M3. So yeah, that should be. That should be pretty snug. I'm gonna go a little bit, a few more turns here. I should have a screwdriver type. I do have another set here, but I should probably be using that. So yeah, so we're getting some tension there now. Okay, so yeah. So now I'm not going to pull that out. So we're going to follow the B path. So the A path uses all the upper pulleys, and the B path is going to follow all the lower pulleys and gears. So I'm going to start, a little limited on my space to work with here, and I only have the one camera, so I apologize. So I'm going to try to make this work my best, but hopefully you guys will be able to follow. I'm going to stick up a little picture here with the instructions of the path to take. So we're first going to go over to our idler, geared idler here, and I'm going to keep my pliers handy here too, so that I can help this along just to grab. We're going to pull this through, trying not to kink, and keep the belt facing. I'm not going to twist the belt, hopefully. We're going to run up through here into our tensioner. Now there is some nice features with this build where it's hard to see, where you need to put their belt through here, wrap it to come back around. But they do have a space so you can poke your belt through. So we got it through here on this end, and this one we need to go back down. So a little bit tricky here. I think I'm going to use my Allen key so I can move this tensioner out of the way a little bit more, just to give a little bit more space to work. Let's pull that out. So yeah, so we're going to route this belt back down through. Again, it's a little bit tedious, but like I said, this is not. I did A, and it's just awkward and not fun. So be prepared. Like, don't try to do the belt. I don't think I tried to do the belt installation if I was having a bad day and was hoping to go at, install belts as part of, work on my printer as part of my unwinding process. Not belts is not the one to do that on. So I'm just trying to feed it. So I have the belt fit through. I'm pulling it back down through my tensioner. Okay. And I went the wrong way. So we're going to go back up through here. I'm going to push the belt through. I don't have the B path in front of me, so I'm just doing it based on the A path. So, yep, so now the belt's we got it through our tensioner. We're going around the pulley with, at this point the teeth should still be facing out. There is a little slot, yep, so there is a little slot for the belt to come through. I'll show you that now in a second. I get this pulled through the idler, so I don't end up with a twist in my belt here. I think we're okay. So trying to get this little inside, you'll see how this belt goes through and it comes back in on the bottom there. We're in this section. Here's a little slot. So again, I apologize. Wish I had a bit of a better camera setup. So now the teeth end of our belt are going to run down along our extrusion. We're going to continue on back right onto the back. Pull this back down through. Make sure, guys. I'm going to turn this around a bit. Hopefully I can get this for you. So on the back side, we're using the lower pulleys. So we're going in around this pulley. We're going back in. We're going to go in around our stepper motor. Back out. This is where it gets a little tangly. But there's a nice big hole at the top here, so you can use pliers or tweezers or something to help guide the belt, because you're going to go back out behind the pulley, out of the bearing, idler. I will try to reach in here with my pliers and I grab the belt and pull it. So, and this is one thing, when I watched a few videos on how people routed their belts and how they went around it, because I was looking at the pathing and we got a little kink here, we got to fix that. I wanted to make sure that what I was showing you guys is right. So got a little slack problem here, but we'll fix that up a little bit later. So I could never see how they were routing the belts through the stepper. So if you look through the top here, let's try to make it like yeah, you can't see much in there, but it goes, you want the teeth up against this when your belt comes out around, and your belt is going to come across the back. Again, we're continuing to use the lower pulleys. We're going around this pulley, back out towards the corner. And we're going back in through here, this piece. And we're going to, I did look at a lot of video of others doing this, because I started at this and I started running into routing issues, but this is probably not going to be the best how-to video for it, but I got a bit of slack here and I'm going to need to clean this up. So anyway, I got my belt, I'm pushing it through. I went inside my extrusion, so now it's a little bit harder to get out, so I'm going to use my needle nose pliers just to fish it out of there so I can grab it, because I need to go back to the carriage. So we got to go over, there's a bearing and a little idler in here we got to go around on the inside. Right here we're coming back around. Again, we're trying to follow the lower path, and we need to make sure that our belts are on all the idlers. Right now this one is not lining up, it's not playing nice, so I need to coach it a little bit to get down amongst that. This one's not playing nice again. So problem is here, I think, is I got inside the extrusion and I need to be a little lower. So I need to get that out of there. My light's a little dim this evening. So yeah. And that's exactly what's going on here. So I'm going to fish that out of there. Just enough to get the pliers underneath it so I can pull it out. The extrusion. So I want to make sure that I get around the pulley that I need to be. I probably should have pulled this one a little bit tighter and, you know, so it's not in my way as much. But so I'm pretty much on the down end now. I'm going to return to the carriage and I need to fix it in here. But before I do that, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So we got that much done. So this end of the carriage clamped. Here, so I'm going to remove that again. My clamp, belt clamp, and maybe I'll use this time to pull this a little, the A cable a little bit more taut. Get a little bit more tension there. And be able to route my B cable a little bit more easily. Make sure it's on all the idlers and not kinking up, rubbing up against anything. So just so I got this out. Alright, take this out of here, lay it down. So our B cable comes across. Yeah, it's still not in the idle. And hopefully this will go easily. No. Alright, there we go. So I've got was able to pull that through actually pretty good. So that worked out. I have something, some reason over here my belt is not coming out right. So I need to trace that back. But anyway, that's the gist of it. I do have some issues with my routing here, and I am going to need to go back through and see why things are not probably lined up the way they need to be. Maybe I got some cables put in wrong here, but the belt's wrong. But the belts are relatively in the right path. But I'm going to check all this over, make sure my A belt's nice and tight, and I'm going to redo this. And then I'm just going to do a little follow-up video on in a few minutes, an update on what I had to do to fix my last. But the routing of the cables, sorry, not cables, belts, is relatively, it's not too bad, but at the same time, it is a little frustrating to, not frustrating, but it's definitely not fun, the funnest part of the build so far in getting the gantry put together. So I'll be back shortly with an update once I get this mess cleaned up. So welcome back here now. So I took some time just to look over my path and stuff, and basically what I had going on with how things are set up here with my pathing of my belts. Some of my belts just weren't sitting properly in the idlers, so I just had to do a few adjustments to get them all lined up. So now I have my belts in. I got them somewhat tensioned at best I could a little bit, so you know, so it's kind of working. I got a little issue going on. I got a new Z rail, new linear rail coming to replace this one I screwed up earlier. I guess this is the way the gantry is moving there now. I guess with the screws I got missing, I'm waiting on coming in. That I need to put in. I got some squareness not right here with the gantry, so I'm hoping that I'm going to straighten that out with once it actually gets mounted into the frame. So yeah, so the running of the belts, not fun, takes a little time. I had made some mistakes along the way in my build that made this more difficult, part of assembly of the gantry, and got a few things going on, and no doubt I'm going to have to work those out before I get too far further in the build, or that's just going to make it more difficult to fix. But yeah, this is not a fun part of the build. But yep, we're this far. We're moving right along, and we will hopefully I'll get these little issues worked out, and I'll get my extra screw, the M5x10 screws that I need to button this up to make this tighter. And I'll get my new linear rail this week to replace the one I fooled up, and get that replaced, and hopefully I'll be back in business on getting on track to getting the Voron to a more of a ready to print state. Anyway, thanks. Leave your comments on your build, your experience with this part of the build, how you any tips, anything you came along with that made it easier for you. And anyway, if you like what I'm doing, continue to follow. More to come on this build, and thanks for watching.